There will be issues, there will be differences, but we cannot afford to be divided. We cannot afford to allow disputes to split ASEAN apart. I just had a brief chat with Prime Minister Anwar at the end of the summit meeting, and I congratulated him on a very successful chairmanship of ASEAN by Malaysia, and also Prime Minister Anwar himself on his leadership in steering ASEAN through what has been a challenging and eventful year. We welcome Timor-Leste as the 11th member of ASEAN. We took steps to accelerate ASEAN's integration with the upgrade of the ASEAN Trade Investments Agreement, and also substantially concluded the ASEAN Digital Economy Framework Agreement. At the same time, ASEAN also stepped up its engagement with external partners, traditional partners like China, Japan, Korea, New Zealand, Australia, and America, where we had a very successful US-ASEAN Summit, but also with new partners who are interested to do more with ASEAN, like Canada, PM was here and was keen to have a Canada-ASEAN FTA, with the EU also expressing an interest to do a trade agreement with ASEAN. The GCC, whom we met at the first ASEAN Summit earlier this year, and then the presidents of South Africa and Brazil were both here as well. That speaks to the possible linkages that ASEAN can establish with new areas like Latin America and Africa. Perhaps with a more challenging external environment, that's one silver lining in the dark clouds, that ASEAN leaders recognize the need to accelerate our integration and make our single market that much more competitive and attractive to investments. ASEAN leaders also recognize that we cannot be divided. There will be issues, there will be differences, but we cannot afford to be divided. We cannot afford to allow disputes to split ASEAN apart. Every chair builds on the work of the preceding chair, and so I'm sure Philippines will do so with Malaysia. We will support Philippines as the next chair, and then we will try out to continue that momentum forward. And the momentum going forward, I would say, are in two broad areas. One, we have to continue with concrete steps to bring ASEAN closer together, to integrate our economies more as a single market, and to take advantage of new opportunities, for example, in the digital and green economies, where there are lots of potential for us to do more together. And second, it's for ASEAN to be an ASEAN-led platform or create frameworks and forums where ASEAN is at the center and we can engage with many different external partners, especially as we enter a world that will be more multipolar in nature. We had separate meetings with America and China, ASEAN plus ASEAN with US and ASEAN with China. And both meetings went very well because all of ASEAN, every single ASEAN country, wants to have good relations with both America and China. With America, the summit with President Trump went well. We appreciated the fact that he had spent time with ASEAN, helped to de-escalate the border tensions between Cambodia and Thailand, and importantly, reaffirmed America's commitment to be a partner to the region. As you said, he is 100% behind ASEAN. And ASEAN countries value that because we may be in the transition to a multipolar world, but we are certainly not there yet. And where we are today, America is still a key global leader and continues to play a vital role in the peace, stability, and prosperity of the region. America is still a very important partner for investments, for innovation, for technology, finance, for development and growth of our region. At the same time, ASEAN countries have very good and close, substantial economic linkages with China. China is our largest trading partner, and we are happy to be able to upgrade the FTA with China, and that we are also continuing to do more with China. I would say something about the trade agreements or the discussions around tariffs, because this is happening It didn't happen at the summit level, but of course, discussions have been ongoing country by country. Some people ask, different countries are signing tariff agreements or trade agreements with the US. Why hasn't Singapore done so? And you need to understand, the agreements that have been signed today, like Malaysia and others more recently, are agreements to work out the economy-wide reciprocal tariffs between America and that particular country. We have not needed to sign such an agreement because we have an FTA with the US and we are at a baseline of 10%, and America is not going below 10%. So we are not pursuing such agreements. Others are. The sectorial tariffs apply on top of this baseline to all countries, not just Singapore. Sectorial tariffs, whether be it pharmaceuticals or semiconductors, potentially will apply even after you have signed an agreement with the US. But for now, there's still not a lot of clarity around how America intends to apply these sectorial tariffs. For example, where pharmaceuticals is concerned, it has also said that American companies can have discussions, and if you are investing back in America, then you may be exempted from these tariffs. With semiconductors, we have not quite heard how they intend to do so yet. So the discussions are still at a very early stage with regards to the sectorial tariffs. A lot is at stake. In fact, everything is at stake because we don't know what shape this new equilibrium will be. We don't quite know where we will end up, and we are in a period of transition. So during this period of transition, as I mentioned just now, cooperation doesn't just magically happen. We have to shape it, and we cannot wait for countries to do it for us. We in ASEAN have to start bringing about these new habits, new norms, new practices, new models of cooperation. We have to do it internally within ASEAN, and we have to put in place the relevant frameworks for ASEAN to lead the engagement with other countries outside of ASEAN. And if we are successful in doing that, then we can ensure that ASEAN remains an open and inclusive platform where all the major powers can engage us and will have stakes in the region. And we believe such a configuration will be balanced, will be inclusive, and will give us the best chances to maintain stability and progress for everyone in the region.